Survival of the fittest. Words to live by. Words to die by. Or simply words when you are on your own, surrounded by dangerous carnivores, prepared to pin you to the ground and tear you apart. Nothing to be done but to continue fighting, because the only difference between life and death is one single breath. Within a quiet cycad haven, a juvenile Tenontosaurus gorges herself on a rare species of mushrooms. Though she is small now, as long as she maintains a nutritious diet, she will grow quickly. Under normal circumstances, a Tenontosaurus this size would be protected carefully by a herd. Unfortunately for young Lila, as she shall henceforth be named, these are not normal circumstances, and she is quite alone. Despite her solitary existence, she finds the river delta to be a place of peace and bounty. With so few threats, even a lone juvenile Tenonto is able to grow and thrive despite the odds. Living along the delta cannot last forever though, and by the time she is a subadult, she feels the pull to migrate. She moves in a southern direction, instinct driving her to leave this safe haven, for what she can only hope will be greener pastures. Travel is dangerous though, especially during the migration season, and an inexperienced and unprotected young Tenonto is an incredibly tempting meal for a roaming pack of omniraptors. Lila has never seen raptors before, but their threatening presence and the way they turn to stalk her the moment they spot her has her nervously changing course, watching over her shoulder as they quickly close the distance. It isn't long, though, before she finds herself backed into a corner. At her weight, only 900 kilograms, 2 adult raptors are heavy enough to pin her to the ground, should they manage to pounce her. She must think fast. With a pack as large as this, time is not on her side. The raptors keep her surrounded and on edge, alternating to bait her into attacking so that she'll move out of her crevice and make herself more vulnerable to attack. As she begins to feel her strength waning, she makes a break for it. The pack follows, taking full advantage of her flight, ripping and tearing, causing her to bleed profusely. Running onto a rocky outcropping, though, she prepares to take her last stand. There's very little chance that she can survive this onslaught. The raptors, however, back up and move more cautiously now, to their great detriment. Exploding through the tree in front of Lila comes an adult Diabloceratops. The massive animal plows through the raptor pack, scattering its members before turning back to the young Tenonto. Although Lila cannot communicate with the ceratopsian, his social call and protective behavior puts her at ease. He is not a threat. He's here to help. Completely exhausted, the young Tenonto lays down to rest and heal from her wounds. She will stay with the Diablos for a few days, but once the threat has passed, they will push her to move on. Months later, and Lila has reached near to her full size. She has discovered a small pond within her migratory zone, and food is plentiful. Despite having lived in the area for weeks now, she has not found any sign of others of her kind. As night has fallen, she approaches her little watering hole, only to hear an incredibly familiar sound. Raptors. After her previous encounter with the aggressive creatures, she gives them a wide berth. They've killed something small. She can only hope that they are content with what they have. Unfortunately, upon spotting the larger food source, the raptor pack abandons the small carcass and sets their eyes on Lila. In the open, she's vulnerable, and this pack is incredibly large. They're like a swarm, rushing in and out, pouncing, biting, scratching. She panics, bucking to try and get the heavy animals off her back and sides, slamming them against trees in some cases. Before long, she is completely exhausted from her attempts to ward off the pack. If more than one pounces her now, her legs will give out. She stands still beside a small tree, legs quivering, breathing heavily. With each approaching raptor, she summons the strength to continue to fight. A relentless drive to stay alive at all costs. They will not take her. And then they were gone. An entire pack of raptors, slaughtered in the bushes. Only a pair of juveniles remaining. Tired, but otherwise fairly okay, Lila makes her way into the forest, feeling as if she could sleep for weeks. Late the next afternoon, Lila wakes and is incredibly thirsty. The raptor carcasses have begun to attract flies in the hot, humid air, already beginning to bloat. As she drinks, though, heavy footsteps signal the approach of another danger. The Carnivores has been attracted by the scent of early decay, but decides to attack the Tenonto instead. he is quickly humbled. Lila has had more than enough of being attacked for one day, and she quickly decides that she is not afraid to claim her space. Of course, the longer the corpses rot, the more scavengers appear in the area. By late the next evening, Lila finds herself the target of attack once more. This time, an adult Cerrado attempts to jump her. Opportunistic as always, the Cerrado brings her to the edge of vomiting, before a young carnivores, being chased by an aggressive boar, attacks the Cerrado. Slightly confused by this strange turn of events, Lila takes the opportunity to get a drink before making her way to the muddy area nearby to clot her blood and rest. Though not before the annoying tree rat jumps on her for getting too close. Within hours, the Cerrado has eaten its fill and moved on, but the family of the now dead young carnivores has tracked their missing ward to the area, found the scent of its blood, and concluded that Lila is the culprit. Aggressive, angry, and vengeful, the pack of carnos attack. Only the large male is fully grown, and the younger two learn quickly that they are not heavy enough to charge such a large tenonto. Despite their size, though, with 3 of them, these carnos are a very real threat. Lila moves carefully, keeping her focus on the biggest threat before deciding that she needs a more defensible position. Knocking down the adult, though, seems to have won her the fight. Revenge for the death of their young wasn't worth dying over. With food in the area growing more scarce by the day, and opportunistic predators becoming significantly more common, Lila began to prepare to leave this area. While it is believed she had hoped to come across others of her kind during her time here, it had become abundantly clear that they were not coming. She was on her own. Having eaten the last few papayas she could find, she set off toward the beach. She seemed to be determined to move further south. If other tenontos existed, she appeared to be quite sure she would find them. However, as she looked back out across the field, a massive pack of raptors was inbound, and they'd already spotted her. Previous experience taught her to remain calm in the face of these numbers. These massive packs were growing more common on the island, and Lila was no longer the young pup she'd been the first 2 times she'd faced such odds. Normally, a lone Tenontosaurus would be a prime target. But Lila had never been part of a herd. She was well prepared to defend herself. Bloodlust got the better of them, and one pinned another to the ground. They were punished severely for the mistake, one dying and the other scurrying away injured. Lila weaved in and around some palm trees, using their pliable trunks to both knock off pouncing raptors and to make it more difficult for them to see each other. Another accidental pin resulted in another dead raptor. With 2 pack members down, the rest grew more cautious. But not so cautious that they remembered how easily the whippy baby palm trees could set them upside down on the ground and vulnerable. Many raptors died before only 2 younglings remained, doggedly keeping on the hunt. Just as Lila began to show signs of relaxing, though, reinforcements arrived. Planting her feet, all fear of death vanished. Enough was enough. Killing the last adult, Lila marched to get a drink before the remaining young raptors finally accepted that they needed to find their meal elsewhere. Sometime later, our Tenonto has moved toward the southern region of the island. As she crosses the plains, however, the sound of carnos gives her slight pause. Not necessarily looking for a fight, she adjusts her course slightly. She'd heard other Tenontos in the region, and she was determined to find them. As she reached a vantage point, the carnivores pack crested the hill and spotted her. 7 carnos made their way toward her as she stood above them, watchful and unafraid. They had her completely surrounded, but when she heard the nearby Teno herd call out, she responded in kind. This response, however, spurred the carnos to attack, attempting to take advantage of her distraction. After the first backed off, 2 younger members of the pack rushed in. Their own inexperience, though, cost them dearly, as they leaped off the cliff in panic when they realized how painful Tenonto kicks could be. With 2 of their packmates now dead, Lila chastised the carnos before making her way to the nearest food source. Her movement away from the cliff, though, had the carno pack salivating. An open field is the best place for them to hunt. Carnos are fast, but their speed makes them significantly less agile than other slower carnivores. Having numbers on their side, the carnos severely underestimated Lila's capabilities of defending herself, quite to their detriment. With a total of 5 of the 7 carnos now dead, Lila turned her sights on the remaining 2. They thought better of challenging her, though, and fled. Days later, the corpses of the carnos had begun to attract the island's scavengers, Cerrados, 1 adult and 2 subadults. Lila, however, seemed unconcerned. She was simply hungry. Unfortunately, the Cerrados stood between her and her food, and they had apparently decided that 5 carnivores corpses weren't enough. They wanted fresh meat. Unafraid, and apparently irritated at once again being targeted, the veteran Tenonto took their challenge aggressively, chasing the adult until the subs were forced to step in. With each attack, she pushed them into peeling off, finally sending the third running back to his family. She was injured, but she had never felt more alive. Carnos are nothing if not persistent. With Lila having claimed the area, the Carnos that remained nearby continued to attempt to hunt her. Night after night, they would lay in wait, ambushing the Tenonto that just wouldn't lay down and die. Each time they would make an attempt on her life, she would simply pummel them and send them on their way. If we didn't know better, one could almost say that the Tenonto found their attempts amusing rather than frightening. Ultimately, though, she migrated out of the area and moved beside the Great Highland Lake. This area housed a fairly healthy population of Diabloceratops, and though this particular herd wasn't aggressively territorial toward her, they often encroached on her personal space to push her away from food and other resources. This push from the Diablos doesn't go unnoticed by a roaming Cerrado. Seeing an outcast in the midst of the herbivore population, it sets its sights on Lila. She has dealt with Cerrados before, though, and has begun to almost play with them, as she knows they are too slow to catch her if she doesn't want them to. In this particular situation, she seems to enjoy acting like she is afraid, fleeing, and then knocking them flat when they get too caught up in the chase. She's grown comfortable in her new home, often moving about in the open, unafraid of the predators that stalk through daily. And so, when a trio of Carnos surround her, she seems confident. Initially. It's not long, though, before things go south. This is an experienced pack of Carnos. They move carefully, baiting her into attacking, then punishing her for it. When she does finally manage to knock one down, then another, it only takes her a moment to make a decision. These carnos have hunted many Tenontos before her, and it was time to execute an escape plan before it was too late. As an incredibly quick swimmer, she crosses the small inlet and begins to trot away. Carnos are notoriously horrible at swimming, and with the threat of Deinosuchus lurking in the water, only one of the three attempted to swim after her. The unconcerned Tenonto trotted casually away, clearly aware that the Carnos would have to exhaust themselves in order to catch up now. However, it would also become clear that she had no intention of remaining in the area either. She may have been a fearless example of a Tenonto, but Lila was not stupid. The scarred and battered Tenonto continued her trot away from Highlands, until another Cerrado ambushed her on her way down the hill. That was when the wildest game of chase ever observed began. This time, Lila kept running until she reached the bottom of the hill to land her usual attack. And then she was running again, acting completely terrified. What she did next, though, challenged everything we understand about Tenontosaurus behavior. Never let them know your next move. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment your thoughts below. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for more content like this. Check out my merch. The link is in the description below. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon.